Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Pompeani here, manning the fort and the fan cave. It's 412-575-2600. That's the number to call. Hit me up on X. It's at KD-Pomp. I'd love to talk to you about the events of the week, actually, and that includes the Steelers with their free agent class. What do you think of it so far? They've certainly got out and spent some money and brought in some players who have nice resumes, like Michael Pittman Jr. Rico Dowdle's a very good running back in place of Kenneth Gainwell, who elected to move on, even though Dowdle will make less than Gainwell over the course of that contract. And then on defense, Jaquan Brisker is the guy from Chicago who I really like more so. Jamel Dean is the guy who's had more on his resume, but Brisker is a guy who's always over the place, and he's made a big difference, I thought, with Chicago. So to get him for like $5.5 million, pretty good move by Omar Khan and the Steelers. So we'll talk about that. Is there anything left out there for them to get in free agency, or will they turn all their attention right now to the draft? I still think the guard on offensive line is something that has to be addressed. They haven't had anyone really there after they lost Sayamalu in free agency, and Broderick Jones is still coming off that very serious neck situation, so you're not sure at left tackle either. That's something to watch in the draft or in the coming days of free agency. But in the meantime, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Penguins and a big win last night in Utah. Man, you know, they knew going into that game they had to respond because the Islanders had already won, and so did Columbus. Those two teams are hot on the trails of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins, you know, fell behind 2-0, and Utah came all after them to start this game. But the Penguins kind of settled it down at the end of the first period. Then in the second, they tied the game with 2 goals, and it was helpful to get a 5-on-3. At one point, they had 6 straight power plays. And so I thought for sure they were going to get the next one, and the next one never came, so Utah never really got that chance. But the Penguins scored by Anthony Mantha's 25th, and then right after that, Tommy Novak got his 15th. It's a 2-2 game. Brian Rust scored in the third. Ian Cole, the former Penguin, tied it with only his 3rd goal of the season, but a big one. That made it 3-3. But Nola Chari in that 4th line always comes up with big plays. That line is really outstanding for the Penguins, and he got another goal. And it was a hard-fought goal in front. Had to get positioning on the defenseman, which he did, and he poked it home. And that made it a 4-3 game, and Stuart Skinner did the rest. Skinner has been really good when he needed to be, especially in those big moment situations at the end. He doesn't get up many rebounds. He absorbs those shots, and they win 4-3. So now they're tied with the Islanders again, 81 points apiece. The Penguins do have a game in hand. They have 16 left. The Islanders have 15 left. Columbus is 3 behind them, and they have the same amount of games as the Penguins. So what do you think? They got Colorado tomorrow. Evgeny Malkin will be back. I wonder how soon we'll see Sidney Crosby. He seems to be getting closer. They have 2 big games left on this trip. Colorado tomorrow, and then they go right back to Carolina. So it ain't going to be easy for the Pittsburgh Penguins. However, they have played some very resilient hockey considering they didn't have Evgeny Malkin for 5 games. They didn't have Crosby now since the Olympic break. They haven't had Brazeau. He's been out. Jackson and Ivany's been out. And yet they're battling, and they're trying to maintain their position. Also, we'll talk about, Connor Griffin hit another home run today. That's his 4th of the spring. I wonder what the Pirates are really thinking right now with Connor Griffin. My tendency is to think they're going to send him to AAA and let him play a few weeks down there. But maybe not. Maybe they've shown, or he has shown them, that he's ready to go right now. It's going to be one of the last moves they make. They only have 11 games left until their first game. And I would imagine within the next 7 to 9 days, you'll get an answer on Connor Griffin. We'll talk about all that and much more. NCAA bracketing is out. You know who you like probably in that. There are some interesting matchups for sure. There's no clear-cut team. I think Duke obviously is the #1 overall seed, but they are missing 2 starters. So I think they could be had depending on the matchup. And there's some very intriguing matchups out there. Interesting that Miami of Ohio did make it as an 11th seed, albeit in a play-in game. So they're going to have to prove that they deserve to be in there. They take on SMU in one of the play-in games in Dayton, Ohio. So plenty to talk about. Love to hear from you. Again, it's 412-575-2600. Join us also tonight, 11:35 for the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. And on my program tonight, we have Jeff Hathorn, Chris Adamski, and Will Graves. A lot to get into. We hope you join us for that. But in the meantime, call right now and air your opinions on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live 7 nights a week right here on KDKA Plus, and on most nights 93.7 The Fan. Back in a flash. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night from Ben Stevens. who covers men's basketball. And how about this? In Division I men's college basketball history, only 5 coaches have led 5 programs to the NCAA tournament. Rick Pitino, he's done it with 6, and he did it with St. John's today as they win that conference championship. They did it last night, actually, against UConn. Then Steve Alford, Lon Kruger, Tubby Smith, and now you could add Fran McCaffery to that as the Penn Quakers go dancing for the first time since 2018. So those coaches know what they're doing. I'll tell you something. Also, John Calipari's done a pretty good job. I believe he's the only guy to take 2 SEC teams and win a conference tournament. So watch out for Arkansas. They're loaded. Malik Thomas, who is from Lincoln Park here in this area, he plays a role on that team. They got some talented guys. Richmond especially is outstanding down low, and he gets a lot of activity down there. So we'll see what happens. Some really good matchups as well. St. John's, we talked about Rick Pitino. I thought they deserved better than a 5 seed. UConn, which lost to St. John's twice decisively this year, got a 2 seed. I thought St. John's was really good, and I would keep my eye on them. Another team that always lurks is Michigan State. Tom Izzo knows what it takes to win this time of the year, and I have a feeling you'll be hearing from him. Purdue is a team that, man, they made a statement this week, I thought, by winning that Big Ten and beating Michigan today. They kind of led from start to finish on that one. So a lot of great matchups. There's some 5-12 matchups. TCU and Jamie Dixon in the field, and they'll take on Ohio State in this one. Jamie Dixon had a pretty good year with 22 wins. Our KDKA.com/Connect poll of the night brought to you by Penn West University. You see it right there on your screen. How do you feel about the tournament bracket? Fair or too many bad seedings? There's always going to be debate. I mean, Auburn thinks they have a case, but they're 17 and 16. Sure, they had a tough schedule. Sure, they played a lot of great opponents. And they beat some pretty good teams, too. They beat teams in this field who have very good rankings and seedings. But bottom line is, you're 17 and 16. I don't think you belong. But, again, that debate rages on. All right, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get right to the phone calls. Again, call us at 412-575-2600, beginning with Chuck in Uniontown. Chuck, what's going on tonight?
Yeah, well, first of all, Bob, thank you. Second of all, I was thinking about the Pirates' upcoming season in 2 areas where they need to drastically improve on, to my way of thinking. 27-54 on the road last year. That's got to be improved by at least 15 to 20 games more. They better win on the road. And the second thing is they better improve their interdivisional record. Because, you know, if you want to compete for a postseason spot, the best way you can do it is by dominating the teams in your division.
Right, just like the Penguins have done, Chuck, this year in the Metropolitan Division. They've really played well against that division. It's one of the reasons why they are where they are. So, yes, that's a good point. They were terrible on the road last year, and they got some veterans who they're bringing in, of course, now, who should make a difference. And I think their bullpen really is good. I think you'll see them go to it quite early in games, not started by Skeens or Keller. When some of those younger pitchers are up there, I would imagine they're going to go 5-6 innings, and then you're going to turn it over to the bullpen. Jimmy in Millvale is up next. Hello, Jimmy. How are you? Jimmy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go right ahead. You're on, sir.
My mother loved you when she was alive. I'd just like to know who is going to play shortstop for the Pirates. Well,
first of all, God bless your mother, and I appreciate that. Shortstop, it's going to be, excuse me right now, I have some allergies. I never thought I had allergies, but maybe I'm getting them. But it's going to be Nick Gonzalez to start unless it's Connor Griffin to start, and that's going to be one of the things they figure out. Triolo will be at third, and you can handle Triolo at third, excuse me, if, you get a lot of hitting from other people. If Triolo is counted on to be an RBI guy more so than you would expect him to be, then that could be a problem. They always say get power at the corners. Well, the Pirates do not have a lot of power at the corners of the infield. They have guys who potentially could, Horwitz can hit a home run here and there. If Ryan O'Hearn plays first base, he can do that, but he probably will do some right field as well. They're going to have a lot of guys moving around in positions. But quite frankly, I think, Nick Gonzalez is a good hitter. We saw him last year at stretches, go through pretty good stretches where he can get on base and do some things. You're not going to get so much power out of him, and that's, again, one of my concerns and one of the reasons why I like, if possible, to put Connor Griffin to start the season at shortstop. He can give you power. We've seen that power on display in the spring. Gonzalez is a contact hitter. He can spray the ball around. He is a former #1 pick. But again, the left side of the infield, you're not going to get much power from it. So we'll see how it goes. I still think the biggest player for me as far as who I would expect to step up internally from what they've had here, it would be O'Neal Cruz. He has to do it. Cruz is one of those guys who has all the potential in the world, and we've seen it on display in the World Baseball Classic. He's hit some really good home runs, long, not only long in distance, but velocity and exit velocity has been off the charts, as it often is with him. But he has to be consistent with it. He has to get on base more. He has to use his speed more because he has a lot of, he could be a 30 home run, 30 stolen base player. He could be even better than that potentially. But you need to see it this year. This is a big year for him. And I would think Brian Reynolds too. I mean, no matter who they brought in from the outside, you still need the guys internally who have been here step up as well. Henry Davis is on that list as well. I wouldn't expect a major jump up offensively from Henry Davis, but I would expect, instead of a 180 average, how about 210? That would be a 30-point increase. And if you can get 10 home runs out of him and 45 runs batted in, considering how he is turned into a good defensive player, I would take that given everything else they have in their lineup. All right, 412-575-2600 is the number. We're going to take a break here and get more phone calls on the line for you. Love to hear from you, so call us. If not, tweet at KD Pump. We'll talk about all things Penguins, Steelers, Pirates, you name it. We'll talk about it right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, welcome back. We continue. Bob Pompeani with you till 11 o'clock right here on a show we do 7 nights a week. So don't be a stranger at 412-575-2600. I should tell you also that Pitt did not get into the tournament. As you know, Jeff Capel did get another year to try to figure this out here, even though a lot of people felt that there may be a termination. There's a lot of money involved with a buyout as well as NIL commitments they need to continue. So he stays for another year, and he does have a good recruiting class in. So, but as far as Pitt against the teams that actually made this tournament, Nathan Breisinger did a very good job of pointing out that they played 14 teams that made it to this tournament. Only one win against any of these teams. It came against Ohio State, which is an 8 seed. Everyone else they played, they lost to, who made this tournament. So Pitt has a long way to go, but hopefully, in basketball, you can turn things around rather quickly. Get a couple of good transfer guys in here, spend some NIL money. You got a good recruiting class. Hopefully they'll all stay put, and Pitt can have an opportunity. Duquesne had a good showing. All the best to David Dixon, a senior who played all 4 years. You don't see that very much this day and age at Duquesne University. He had a great tip-in at the buzzer to beat Richmond on their last regular season game, and then played well in the tournament, although they lost to VCU, the eventual champ. Let's go back to the lines. We got Ron in Greensburg. Hello, Ron. How are you tonight?
Hey, Bob. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Cheers to a fellow Pioneer.
All right. There you go. Thanks, Ron.
No problem. Hey, I'm just thinking right now, the password we have is a hell of a lot better than the one hosted by Alan Ludden and Bert Convey. I would like to see this kid make the team. Was there any talk ever maybe making Horowitz a third baseman? We can move the other guy to first and have him in platooning with Mangum and the outfield. I mean,
well, Mangum's going to be a key part. You're talking about Joe Stinson Garcia. That kid has a lot of potential. He's only 23. He's been hanging around, and I have a feeling they're trying to figure out what to do with him. Most likely he'll go also to AAA. But he had a tremendous minor league season last year, and he's hit the ball off the cover really this spring. So I wonder about him. Spencer Horwitz is playing first and second. I don't see him at third. I don't know that he's ever played there, but he's played both the right side of the infield. So I don't expect that. Again, it's going to be Triolo to start, and we'll see where it takes them. They were not able to, actually come up with a third baseman by trade, which a lot of people thought might happen. Let's get to Tom in North Versailles. Hey, Tom, how are you?
How you doing, sir?
Good,
I
thanks.
listen to you, fan a lot. Hey, I want to know how can we keep colleges fair? This portal they have. They pay more money to go to different colleges and stuff like that. How can we put a cap on that and make everything fair?
Well, honestly, that's what has to happen, Tom. It's been discussed quite a bit. It hasn't happened yet. In fact, quite frankly, I think they were too ambitious getting into this NIL era. Name, image, and likeness. They wanted to make money for the players, but it got completely out of hand because if you don't have a controlled system, if you don't have a cap in place so that all the money is equal, and that's going to have to happen here sooner rather than later, because otherwise teams that have big pocket boosters are going to always win. One of the reasons John Calipari, I'm sure, went to Arkansas because he has some people there who have deep pockets and are big benefactors of that university. They want to contribute to it. So it makes it easier to come up with $20 million and say, here, let's give these guys here. His transfer budget is pretty big. And we'll see what that happens with Pitt. And I think that was one of the problems Pitt had, certainly, because they had to determine how much money they were going to spend in a buyout, and if that buyout money would then make it ridiculous to try to spend on NIL. So they're going to stick with Capel. Next year's buyout would go down if they want to make a move, and they may delay that by 1 year. But if ever there was a coach on a hot seat, it was and is Jeff Capel, and he's going to have to deal with that next year. But again, the good thing is, they had a big kid they brought in here, a big center, 6'10", 6'11", and he had a heart murmur, and he was ruled ineligible for the entire season. So I think his name is Jackson, but if they had him, Cam Corn could have played a different position. I think they just got a thin roster to begin with, and then when you lose a player or two, it makes it very difficult. But every team has to go through that. So, the bottom line is they have to have a good year. They have to bounce back and I would think the NCAA tournament is where they have to end up next year. And can that happen? Sure, it could. He was coach of the year back in 22-23, and he got that team to the tournament. He almost got the next year's team to the tournament too. And you can do it. Capel, I think, has a very good idea of what he wants and how to get it. But they need some backing. They need some money to make that all possible. All right, the USA is still holding on to the lead, 2-1 over Dominican Republic. We'll see if they can close that out. I would imagine Mason Miller's probably on now if they're in the ninth inning. He followed David Bednar the other day, and Bednar was in that game earlier tonight. So we'll see what happens. If they can wrap it up, they go to the championship game on Tuesday night against the winner of Venezuela and Italy. A little surprising twosome there to get into that semifinal matchup. Tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, again, we have Jeff Hathorn, Will Graves, and Chris Adamski. We talk a lot about the Steelers and their free agent acquisition so far. Also the Penguins, what lies ahead for them. Can they finish this and get into the playoffs? We'll find out. All coming up tonight at 11:35. It's going to do it for us. I'm Bob Pompeani. Thank you for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow night and every night right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Hope you have a good week.